Today's episode is a Q&A session with questions submitted from coaches just like you. Questions about business, about coaching, and about making the move to building and growing a health coaching practice in an ever-evolving health landscape. Today's Q&A includes questions like, how can I do this when I'm not super high-tech and really don't want to be? How can I coach my client to start drinking less alcohol? Am I allowed to market myself to type 2 diabetics? And a few questions about my own personal points of view on why it's so great to be a health coach today, and what advice I give myself if I could go back in time, and a whole lot more. Please enjoy. Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
For today, I have a lot of different questions that came in. Some of them were around coaching, so working with clients. A lot of them were around business. And building your coaching practice, which I love talking about. I had a few about nutrition as well, and primal nutrition. I do feel as though today our best use of time would be to talk about some of the coaching and business stuff. So I'm going to start there, okay? The first question I had was from Janine. This one really, really spoke to me. The question is, when you ask a client to think about cutting back on alcohol intake, and their response is, well, I have to live. What do you do? And so what struck me about this question is that we've asked the client to think about cutting back on alcohol. I want to know more about this. Is this a client-generated goal, or is this a coach-generated goal? So the first thing I'd like for everyone to remember is that our clients drive the coaching conversation. The clients determine their goals. The client sets the intention at the beginning of the session. The client ultimately decides on what the goal of each individual session will be. The client has decided on what the outcome goals of their coaching relationship will be, right? That's the big outcome goal, the top of the staircase. And every coaching session that we're in previous to that precedes that is chipping away at the outcome goal. Now, whatever this client's outcome goal is, potentially reducing or restricting alcohol consumption might be an important part of that goal. But if the client isn't ready for it yet, it's not our job to suggest it. So let's run through a scenario where this might come up. Maybe the client is talking about, and I don't have this background, but I'm happy to just riff because I feel like I've had enough coaching conversations in my life that I maybe can predict where this might have come from. But perhaps the client is struggling with maybe some gut disruption or maybe some sleep disruption, something like that. Let's go with sleep. So the client is struggling with sleep. This is really interesting because I do find more clients are struggling with sleep. And what I'm excited about is that more clients are seeking help with sleep. It's sort of like people are finally getting it, that sleep is really important to manage and to perfect. So let's go with that. Let's just assume that's the situation here. The client is struggling to get into deep sleep. We have a sense, there's literature to suggest that alcohol consumption impacts deep sleep cycles specifically. So if the client comes to the session and they say, my intention for this session is I'd like to get better sleep. I'm just not sleeping well. I wake up feeling tired. I'm definitely not getting into deep sleep because I know I'm waking up a lot in the middle of the night. I'd like to work on that. Now, your job as the coach is to ask questions about, curiosity-inspired questions that get to really maybe what's happening here. Tell me the last time you did sleep well. What was going on in your life then? What can you remember about a time when you were sleeping better that we could maybe bring in to your world today? Why is this important to you? Why is it important to you to get better quality sleep? Let's connect to the client's values here so we can really make sure that we're moving forward on an important goal. I think there's something really interesting, especially if you're kind of a sleep dork. And I've just invented this sleep scenario. Hopefully it's near or on the mark, but even if it isn't, we can extrapolate, right? So if we understand, how to get somebody into good sleep, using this evening wind down, sleep hygiene tactics, and some of the nutritional and lifestyle pieces that influence sleep, such as alcohol intake or, sun exposure. So we know all this stuff and we can teach it. And on some levels, our clients do want us to teach. I will say that, I will scream that from the rooftops every day. Our clients do expect us to teach them some things, but we don't just go in with the prescription. But one of my favorite ways to explore this is, I know what people need to do to sleep better, for example. I want to know if the client is even in the ballpark of living that way, doing that stuff. So I could say, take me through what a typical evening leading up to bedtime is like. The client will say, well, after supper, we put the kids to bed and we clean up the kitchen. And then it's like our time to sit on the couch, right? We sit on the couch, we put the TV on. We're also on our phones, just scrolling, relaxing, right? This is our relaxing time. We'd like to have a little snack. So it's like a bowl of ice cream or maybe like a bowl of chips. We generally will stay up till 11 or 11:30, sometimes midnight, because this is honestly our only time to relax in the day. Then we go, I have my glass of wine, my 2 glasses of wine, and then, we go to bed. And I fall asleep pretty quickly, but I don't stay asleep and I don't feel rested when I wake up. So right out the gate, I can hear 3 or 4 things I'd love to work through the client, work with the client, right? The client is staying up way too late, right? Looking at screens, multiple screens. So tons of blue light exposure, having these sort of high carbohydrate, insulin producing snacks, which I know, maybe we all know, impedes the production of melatonin. And then there's the alcohol. So it's like 4 different things that are potentially affecting this client's deep sleep. So then you can come in and say, and here's how you do this, gang. You ask permission. Would you mind if I shared a little information about how we can cultivate better deep sleep? And the client will say, yes, I'd love that, because they want you to teach them something. Then when you go in with the teaching moment, you keep it so brief, super high level, like set a mental timer in your mind to go off, let's call it 90 seconds, and bring it right back to the client. So you might say, client, do you mind if I just share a little bit of information about how we can best sort of optimize for deep sleep? Client will say, yes, I'd love that. So, well, first of all, one thing that we know is that when the body has to process carbohydrates or sugar close to bedtime, that sort of encouragement of insulin into the bloodstream can put off the production of melatonin, our critical sleep hormone. Other things that can delay the onset of melatonin is like looking at bright lights or screens before bed. And one more thing that we do know also about deep sleep is that alcohol before bed has been shown in some of the literature to actually prevent us from entering into deep sleep. Do either one of those 3 things feel like something you might want to explore as a goal this week? Now, the client might say wine, the client might say alcohol, or the client might say screens, or the client might say something else, or the client might say no. So we want to let the client lead. Now, generally, clients will make a smart choice. They came to you for that reason. So I just, that final scenario I gave you where the client just doesn't want to take any of that on board, that rarely happens. But what if it did? What if the client said, I just don't feel like I'm ready to tackle that right now. What else can we do? Well, we have one more lever we can pull. We can try to get you to bed earlier. Let's try to get you to bed earlier. How does that sound as a goal for this week? Right. So you want the client to derive the goal, to come up with the goal. Now, I don't know in this scenario if the client came up with that. It doesn't sound like it because the client immediately pushed back. So once again, the scenario that was presented in this question is, I, the coach, asked my client to think about cutting back on alcohol and they were not into it. I just have to say, I don't love that for us. I don't love us to be the ones telling our clients what to do. That creates a lot of friction in the coaching relationship. And actually, it can be quite overwhelming. It's an overwhelming feeling of friction. And I always feel one of our humble duties as a health coach is to underwhelm our clients, to bring them down to this really gettable level where they feel like they're in control. They're making the moves they want to make that are important to them, that they feel confident they can do. Like when we create goals with clients, we teach the SMART framework in the Primal Health Coach course, the SMART goal framework, pretty basic, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, results oriented, and time specific. And I will always tell you that the attainable, the A, is the most important aspect of that goal. Can they do it? Do they want to do it? If they can't or don't want to, they won't. So you go back to the drawing board. There's a really cool tool that we use in the coaching conversation that's called the GAB summary. So it's after you've come up with the goal, you'll ask the client for their confidence on a scale of 1 to 10. GAB stands for goal summary. It's the G. A is assess confidence, and B is establish and solve for barriers. So the assess confidence piece, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you can, achieve this goal this week? And they'll say 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. It was their idea. Rarely does somebody who created their own goal is going to feel very confident in a goal. It was my idea. I'm 10 out of 10 confident I can do it because it was my idea. If I said to the client on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you can just ditch alcohol this week? And it wasn't even their idea. They'll say 2, 1. That's not how you want to end the coaching session. You want to end with high confidence, 8, 9, or 10 out of 10, because 7 doesn't count. 8, 9, or 10 out of 10. And then we want to take that gap summary and ask them a follow-up question, which is, why did you say 9 and not a 3? And this encourages them to just offer up change talk, which is, well, this is going to be easy for me. I can totally see the value. I'm really excited to try it. I really want to get better sleep. They're going to give you all the reasons why they can do it. If we ask the question of somebody who gave us a 2 out of 10 confidence, why did you say 2 and not 1? Why did you say 2 and not 7? Sometimes we play that game where we ask them to shoot higher. They're going to give us what's called sustained talk. It's like, well, I really like my wine and it's my one treat, every day. It's like, it's how I wind down. It's sort of my anchor point to like my own sort of self-care. And they're going to give you all this sustained talk, the reason why they want to keep doing it. And that's not how we want to end the coaching session. We don't want it to feel like that. So this is a really great question. I think it gave us an opportunity to all learn that coaching conversations, goal setting is client-led. And I will just summarize by saying that I know that comes as a surprise to coaches sometimes, but trust and believe I know that, because when I teach Master Coach, this is one of the first things that we teach is like, hey, by the way, you're in partnership with your client. You're co-leaders, really. I want you to be in a leadership role as the coach, absolutely. And your client is also an equal lateral leader to you. And they are driving and steering the conversation. And you're there to pick up and productively get goals on the agenda based on what they want, what's important to them. We always connect back to values. Why is this important to you? If I asked this client, why is it important to you to cut back on alcohol? They would say, it's not important to me. It was your idea, right? We don't want that. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. That was a really good question. I really do appreciate Janine offering that one up. It really spoke to me because our opportunity is to we're getting the opportunity in the health coaching relationship is to deliver the client to self-efficacy. This is the belief, the knowledge, and the confidence that they have the skills, abilities, and resources to do it on their own. And we get them to self-efficacy by having them be a leader. They're the boss, right? So let's not take our role. Let's not claw back that power from them. We're a partner. All right. Moving along. So most of the questions I had were about health coaching, our health coaching practice, our business. And some of them were really fun. So I'm going to start with this one because it's just kind of fun. And I think it'll be useful to you guys. So this one came from Christiane. So she asked this question, and somebody else, Allie, asked me a question. Allie's not on the call either. These questions are similar. So Christiane asked me, what's the number one thing you love most about being a health coach? And Allie asked me, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? So I'm going to kind of do these in sort of quick order here, because I think this is just fun stuff. But my favorite thing, to go back to Christiane's question, my number one thing that I love the most about being a health coach, and I feel this every day, I feel this every single day, is impact. More and more, I'm seeing that everyday humans are recognizing their own blind spots, and they're feeling empowered to look for an expert who's already created the solution they need and has already helped tons of people just like them. So I feel really excited. It gets very exciting when you can be in a relationship, a coaching relationship with somebody who has the problem that you're the expert and you can solve that problem. It's just the most pure, satisfying feeling. I feel this kind of goes into Allie's question, which I'll get into in a second. But I feel really proud and excited that I help one kind of person with one kind of health struggle, and I help them in one way. I do one thing, gang. I am a jack of one trade. And what's really beautiful about that is that I know it works. I know how to help this type of person. And so I get on my coaching calls, and coaching calls are not always easy. I mean, the example I just gave you, you have to really you have to really practice this. You have to really embody, and this is a physical practice as far as I'm concerned. And you have to really put in the work to feel comfortable and confident as a health coach holding this space. But when you do this, in the space that you're holding is your area of specialty that you feel like an expert in, it flows. It is the absolute expression of flow state. I know what questions they're going to ask me. I know what hurdles they're going to come up against. I rarely am stumped at this point. I would be stumped if I was trying to be everything health coach. If I'm trying to solve every health problem, I would be routinely stumped. That would not feel comfortable to me. And I would then, my own imposter syndrome would probably churn up, because that's a real thing that exists in all of us. And I would think, I don't know if I can help people. It doesn't feel like I can help people. I don't have confidence that I can help people. But the impact I get to make because I have clarity and confidence, it's so rewarding. I was thinking, I love this question came in because last week I had a lot of client calls. I'm just kind of changing the way I orchestrate my health coaching business. And so I'm just in this transition phase where I had just extra lot of client calls. And that's when you look at your calendar, and maybe this is something to aspire to if you're just new to health coaching, but I looked at my calendar and saw the sheer number of coaching calls I had last week. At first I was, feeling like, okay, I know I can get through this. I hope, right? Like I can do this. I had to give myself a little cheerleading, but every single call was productive. They weren't all positive, but clients will come to the calls with struggle. That's honestly where we shine. Like, what was the struggle? What are the barriers? Let's chip away at those. But the ends of the calls, we had come up with actionable solutions that were moving the client again up that staircase to their outcome goal. And the way I felt after all of those calls was like exhilarating. It was an exhilarating feeling. Wow, I'm helping people. Am I helping everybody? No, I'm not helping everybody. I can't help everybody. You can't help everybody, but I'm really good at helping these people. And I'm making an impact in them. I'm not making a global impact. I'm making a small impact, but it's measurable. It's tangible impact on their lives. That is my number one favorite thing about being a health coach. I really appreciate that question, Christiane. And I'm going to roll down to Allie's question, which is similar but different. If you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice when starting your business, what would it be and why? For me, it would be get focused on that specialty sooner. Okay, so Allie probably knows this because she did my Launch Your Coaching product course that I ran, a little business course that I ran. And where we started in that course was, what are you the expert in? Literally, that's how I kicked off the 12-week live taught sort of practice building course. Was like, okay, tell me what you're the expert in. Everybody unmute yourself and tell me what you're the expert in. Well, you want to talk about some feelings of imposter syndrome. Nobody wants to declare themselves an expert. I'm just new. I'm only a health coach. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even fit yet. All these, well, this is sustained talk, right? There's sustained talk right there for you. Like, I get it, but you have to be an expert in something because people hire experts. They're looking for an expert, right? They're, your roof is leaking. What are you going to do? Just go hire some random handyman? You're going to probably call up a roofer, get that fixed ASAP before the next rainstorm comes in. Like, we know that we hire experts to do things we're not good at doing. So it saves us time. It saves us time to get an expert's help. So you have to be an expert. This will change. I just want you to know it will change. You're gonna evolve. But I just want you to always think of this very narrow window that describes what you do. Okay, so I'm not really talking about your niche. I'm not really talking about your I help statement. People sometimes call it the I help statement. I help blankety blank do XYZ by W123. I'm not talking about that. I'm like, what are you a world leading expert in? So it's like an imagination experiment, but also I want you to get super clear. When my first client that I took on, my very first client, I share this story often. So I apologize if you've heard it before. Her name was Tennille, if that rings any bells. Tennille, a name you can never forget. And she found me through search engine optimization because I just happened to build my website. And this predates social media. And so it was just kind of how people were finding each other. She was looking for like a paleo-oriented nutritionist. I had a nutritionist credential in Calgary, the city I was living in, who specialized in autoimmune diseases. So that all came up on my search engine. I came up on the search engine when she found that, when she Googled those keywords. Paleo, autoimmune, Calgary, nutritionist. That's how people Google things. You guys know, like, that's how we're searching. It's like this very inarticulate string of words that kind of tries to triangulate what we're looking for, right? So we get that. So I worked with Tennille. We worked together for 6 months actually, because she was very plagued by many autoimmune diseases. So we did a very in-depth autoimmune protocol with her. And I immediately learned that I'm not the expert at that. I'm not an autoimmune expert because I've never had an autoimmune disease. I really didn't enjoy taking her through that. Although she had great results, there was no joy for me in that very strict, very elaborate elimination protocol, right? It's just not my specialty. Somebody else is really good at that. I hope somebody out here watching is very good at that, because I just run into people all the time for whom autoimmune disease is their big number one massive health struggle. And I'm very proud to say that's not my area of specialty, but I can help you find someone who is. Okay, so there's a resource I want to share with you. I'm going to actually share my screen and show it to you because it's pretty cool. It's just one way of kind of thinking through this. Okay, so earlier I evoked this story of how Tennille found me. According to my SEO, my search engine optimization, I was an expert at autoimmunity, right? Because I put it in there. I put it in there as one of my keywords, and that's why she found me. If I didn't have the word autoimmune in there, I might have still come up on the search engine, but maybe not at the top. But this is a really cool utility, just to play with. Okay, just to play with. It's called Answer the Public. Maybe you've seen this before. AnswerThePublic.com. It shows you what people are Googling. Right. So let's say, I'm going to go just with something very generic. So in the search box here, you just put in something that's kind of a specialty. Maybe you're a coach who wants to specialize in IBS. Now, I don't think IBS is a specialty. It is kind of, but I think we could even get more granular than that. So I put IBS in here, and let's put the region let's put the United States. And we search. It's an interesting little interface that it has here. It's kind of this word cloud sort of. The word cloud is broken down by who questions, or will questions, or why questions, or where, how questions. How questions are interesting because, right, like that's kind of what we're doing. We're helping people with the how, right? What, which. So if we go to the how, we have how is IBS diagnosed, how IBS affects your life, how IBS starts, how IBS is treated, how it works, how it feels, how it affects the body, how is it related to anxiety, how can it be cured, that kind of thing. By the way, this is a really great tool for generating like content ideas, because write a blog post entitled why IBS is worse at night, or why IBS flares up, or, really cool utility. But I always think of it from the perspective of what are people Googling? And I really believe people are Googling the symptoms that they're living with for the most part. I really do, because like my specialty was insulin resistance because I was pre-diabetic, but I didn't know I was pre-diabetic until somebody told me I was pre-diabetic. I just thought I was really fat and tired. Like, why am I so fat and tired? That's what I would be Googling. Why am I so fat and tired? So what is my specialty? I actually I wrote it down here so I could make sure. I specialize in helping folks lose diet and exercise resistant belly fat that's been stuck on them for 5+ years while regaining their energy, motivation, and zest for life. Because my experience as a pre-diabetic person was I'm putting all this fat on, even though I'm eating right and exercising, and I can't get it to budge, and I'm exhausted and checked out mentally. That's the experience I was having. And so I love being an expert in helping people who are living with that. It's a lot. It's a big, long sentence, right? So again, this isn't for my Instagram bio. This is how I go out into the world. This is who I help. People say, I'm the expert in this. Exercise and diet resistant fat that's partnered with major mental fog and low energy crashes. Like, that's me. I'm the expert in that. Right. So I want you to get really, really down. I'm going to use my favorite word, get granular with it. And that Answer the Public utility can help you to understand what people are asking about. So if autoimmunity was your goal, I would really like you to come into a disease, like a specific disease, and then put that disease into Answer the Public. Remember, we can't go to market. We're not going to cure diseases. That's not what health coaches do. But we want to know how people with that disease, that diagnosed disease state, what are they asking? What are they seeking help with? And that's the thing you can specialize in. If there's one thing I've learned in my years as a health professional, it's that changing lives is much easier when you're doing it alongside a team of experts. Physicians, nurse practitioners, and other care providers have learned this too, which is why they're looking for health coaches just like you to join their medical patient care team. Primal Health Coach Institute's Health Coaching in Medical Practices Specialist certification prepares you for that. You'll learn how to work alongside a clinician and advise and motivate patients to change unhealthy lifestyle habits and manage chronic conditions. By the time your studies are complete, you'll be ready to secure a position at a practice that fits best with your coaching style, and you'll have the tools you need to plan programs, accept referrals, and coach patients. If you're a health coach with a passion for helping patients get the life-changing information, encouragement, and accountability they need to make sustainable changes in their health, visit primalhealthcoach.com to learn more about the Health Coaching in Medical Practices Specialist certification. So this question that came from Kent, tags onto what I just said, but how tightly defined should our niche be and our subsequent marketing? I reverse type 2 diabetes and want to work with that group. Is it out of scope of practice to describe niche and marketing to type 2 diabetes, type 2 diabetics? So it is, you can market to type 2 diabetics. You can help support type 2 diabetics. Definitely speak to the symptoms of type 2 diabetes or living with type 2 diabetes. The experience of, I am a type 2 diabetic, you are a type 2 diabetic, this is the reality, we're living with this. We're not able to cure it, even if you have, like, between us, maybe we can say, there's some compelling literature that shows that it goes into remission following certain dietary paradigms. But in the marketplace, we don't say that. We don't offer to cure type 2 diabetes. I know you probably already know that, Kent. It's not out of scope of practice to market to type 2 diabetes, but you do have to watch your language in terms of how you market. We're never treating, we're never prescribing, we're never healing, we're not curing, we're not diagnosing. If it's, if I put it in the phrase of an I help statement, I help type 2 diabetics, get control of their blood sugar excursions. That's a symptom. Like, blood sugar excursions is a symptom. That would be nice for them to have that experience. And maybe we know that the downstream benefit of getting control of blood sugar excursions is, maybe we can deprescribe some insulin here and there. We would never say that, but that has been happening. We've seen that happening in the research. And so if we're working with anybody who has a diagnosed disease state and is potentially medicated for it, one of our number one rules is to really encourage the client to advocate for themselves with their healthcare provider, their licensed healthcare professional, the person managing their prescription. Let them know. Sometimes when a person changes their diet this way, maybe starts eating a bit more protein, maybe just crowds out the carbohydrate a little bit, they find that their blood sugar excursions kind of mellow out. And sometimes those folks find that they might have to go to their doctor and get their insulin dosage readjusted. That's a really, really very in scope way of just like nurturing a client to a dietary change that might support their symptoms they want to improve, and also keeping you in scope by helping them with the doctor. So I love this question, because many of us came to health coaching because we helped ourselves out of or away from a diagnosed disease state. And we have a sense of belief that it can be done. And that's really great. That's an amazing origin for a health coach. Health coaches do incredible work. I mean, I know you know that. We help people change when change is hard. That's what our job is. I saw that somewhere, and I thought that was just a really nice way of putting it. And that's such an important job. That is such a critically important job. Wow, we get to do that. If somebody can be deprescribed off of their medication, wow, what an incredible bonus. But that's not the world we play in. So we don't want to touch it. We leave that for the doctors. The doctors have what they do. We have what we do. We have our hands full helping people change. Okay, so I invite you to market to type 2 diabetics, but not to solve type 2 diabetes. I hope that's helpful, Kent. All right, moving right along. This was a really nice question from Susan. So this is a business question. Okay, this is about our coaching business, specifically marketing, sales, getting into the weeds of coaching business. So I really hope that this is useful for you all. I wanted to think through this a little bit. So she said, can you be successful when you're stumped by technology? That's the way she framed the question. And so maybe you do or don't know that I'm pro technology because I'm good with technology. I have that aptitude. By the way, you came into this with some collected aptitudes from your past life. So you leverage those, but technology might not be one of them. But Susan went on to share a bit more. She said, I have no trouble emailing or texting or posting or messaging or social media. So that's all right. Already I'm like, great. This is all the technology we need to communicate. That's good. We have to communicate our message to people so they'll know that we exist, which is the first step to somebody hiring you is, does this coach exist? Yes, they do. What are they saying? They need to know and like and trust you. So we need to be able to just be communicating what our message is, what our specialty is. So it sounds to me like Susan's got that all dialed. She's cool with posting, no problem there. But she says, it's Zoom and websites and email list building and ads and funnels, etc. That's where Susan's, that's her threshold. She's like, just the rest of it, I just don't want to touch it. So I want to offer some great good news to Susan, anybody who can relate to Susan. And I also want to offer just a little nudge of encouragement. Okay. So first of all, maybe you heard that question and you thought, wow, I'm envious of Susan. She's comfortable posting and messaging and emailing. I'm not even comfortable doing that. I'll once again go back to the fact that I believe that social media marketing is the easiest approach. It's certainly not the only approach, right? But it's just right there. And whether we love it or hate it, well, most of us hate it. We're carrying these gadgets around in our hands. And those two apps, Facebook and Instagram, those two specifically have 4 billion users. So your clients are on Facebook and they are on Instagram. That's just straight facts. So if you can be there, that I just feel like it's just such an obvious opportunity. You don't have to like it. Okay. If you don't have to like it, but just think of it as a place where you can just share what you think is important to share. It's just like a blog. To me, it's just like a blog. No different than writing a blog. I'm writing my blog on my Instagram feed. That's all. And when I write a blog post, it's like, here's a topic that I think is interesting, but more importantly, from a marketing perspective, here's a topic that my specific client would be interested in hearing about from me, an expert, right? So I always write these things to the client. That's a good way of just approaching marketing communication. Like you're writing to the client. Just pretend that nobody else exists. Nobody else is on Instagram except your ideal, perfect, wonderful client who you're the expert that you can help them. Okay. That's the only person that exists. So you're writing to them. We don't have to write to impress each other. Okay. I see it that way too much. People trying to impress other health professionals. Like, don't worry about those guys. They're not your clients. Write to your clients. Okay. So you might be feeling envious that Susan is cool with posting and you wish you could be more cool with posting. I think if you could just sort of like rise above your hatred of social media and just accept it as a really excellent communication platform, that would help you. Just a little reframe. Man, you can target clients in your local region, right? You can host events, you can post flyers and posters up at the coffee shop or the chiropractor's office. There's lots of ways you can do this without social media that are just as fun and in some ways just as easy and just as effective. But if you're short on time, if you don't live in a place like that has a good market locally, and if you really have a craving to reach a broader audience and kind of go to work online, then I think your marketing efforts ought to be online as well. That's just my personal opinion. So I'd love to see those of you who are very anti-social media, very anti-online communicating, maybe warm up to the idea. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. I'm not your boss. I'm not your mom. But it's just such a good idea. 4 billion people. And I know that it would be lovely. We'd imagine like my clients are woke. They don't spend any time on social media, but I'm afraid to say that statistically speaking, it seems as though they do. There's 4 billion users. Okay. Now I personally do believe that using some technology will help us all build and grow, but there's no obligation to use any of the technology that makes your eyes glaze over. Okay. So the things that Susan's comfortable with, posting, sharing, emailing, this is all you need to build your business organically. Just some way of putting a message out that interests and catches the attention of the person who it's meant to catch the attention of, right? This is called like lead generation. These people are called leads. They're paying attention to you. They're watching in the shadows. They haven't clicked a button yet, but they're reading. They're trying to figure you out, right? So Susan evoked this idea of the funnel, the sales funnel. We teach this in the business elements of our course, a sales funnel. And sales funnels, it does seem very elaborate if you think about it. but it doesn't have to be. Ultimately, the funnel is you get these leads, you warm them and nurture them, and then they become your customers. Leads becoming customers. You find them, then you really work with them and spend time like speaking their language, speaking to them to the point where they literally can't resist working with you. That's a sales funnel in a very, very short, succinct description. And that can be done organically. It's called organic marketing when it's done through your social feeds. I'm just posting, the people are reading, they're deciding to click the book now button when they're ready. That could be in 1 month, that could be in 1 year, that could be in 5 years. When they're ready, they're ready. In the meantime, I'm just going to be continuing to consistently put my message out there so people have clarity about what I do, so that they can start to build their confidence. These prospective clients can start building their confidence that you are the coach for them. So that's organic marketing, and it's a perfectly viable way to grow. That's how most people grew in the space today. It's just a little slower for most of us. That's okay though. What's the hurry? Keep your day job, work health coaching as a side hustle, strenuously encourage you to do that. I mean, you're the boss, but we're not telling you to leap into this and make it your full-time effort, because if you're going to build organically, which is a great way to start because it's free, that'll take time. That's just the trade-off of organic marketing. Now, Susan also evoked the idea of ads. Ads are an incredible way to get even more leads. So the top of the funnel, more people here that, funnel down into your call calendar. That's so next level. I don't think you need to start there, but if you were open to exploring it, we've had a couple of guests on the Health Coach Radio podcast who did specialize this. George Liu, I think, was one of the guys, and then Yuri Elkim was the other. And they have the point of view that, hey, if you're getting started, you might want to start with ads because organic marketing is slow. So, but here's the thing, you put it on the scales of justice. Do I want to keep it simple and organic and it'll be slow? Or do I want to kind of make this a more intentional, sort of difficult effort, and maybe I'll grow faster? It's kind of whatever you want, which is nice. But your sales funnel does not have to be an elaborate production. We're all doing some kind of sales funnel, right? And I even taught this in the business course that I taught earlier this year, which is like, we have to get people clicking to book a call, to get in your calendar so you can enroll them in this program that you've made that's based on your specialty. Like that's how you get clients into your calendar, right? Is by having a thing that you can sell it's an expert specialty solution to a specific person's problem. But before any of that happens, they have to know it exists. They just have to know it exists, right? That's the top of the sales funnel down to the bottom, which is into your client calendar. And this can all be done with posting. Susan's fine with posting. That's called organic marketing. It's completely great. If you manage your expectations around it, okay, so don't expect to go viral. Don't waste a moment of your life worrying about the algorithm, because it's just an algorithm. It's like, there's no point in obsessing about it. Just post what feels important for your eventual clients to read. This person stumbles across your Instagram or your Facebook or whatever because the algorithm finally served you up to them. And there you are. And you've been posting and you've been sharing your opinions and your thoughts and what you know and what you do. And they're scrolling and they're reading and they're learning about you and they're thinking, wow, I think this is the coach for me. This actually literally just happened to me. I signed up a client last week who she said, apparently I've been following you for years, but I've never seen a single post of mine never came across her feed until like 2 weeks ago. Some post finally showed up in her feed. This is the algorithm playing mean tricks. Like, why didn't the algorithm tell her that I existed? She followed me. Shouldn't she be seeing my posts? She didn't, but she finally did. Mercifully, I've been posting and posting and posting and posting. So when she finally landed on my profile, she could read a bit and see, wow, this coach has such a clear point of view. And oh my gosh, I think she has the solution to my problem. And 2 weeks later, she's now a signed client, but she's been following me for years, right? So we play that long game. Now, one thing I will say just in answer to Susan's question, and this is sort of the casual, sort of light nudge that I would encourage you all. And this is just my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. But I do like us having a website because we own it. You own your website. You don't own your Instagram or your Facebook. Y'all know that. Put a blog is another great way of writing, curating some content for yourself. It's a good practice to have a blog, right? I love the idea of coaches writing or videoing. If you're better on video, maybe do a video blog or a YouTube channel, right? I love the idea of coaches talking about what they love to talk about, because that's what people are looking for. And you probably know this because you're a consumer. And how do you shop for things now? You're kind of doing your own research, right? I know generally what I want. I'm going to go try and look at these different products and see what they're all saying. And I'm probably going to read some reviews and some comments and, just kind of make my own decision at this point, who I want to engage with or what product I want to engage with. That's how people shop these days. So you have to make sure that you have a body of work that people can at least compare and contrast to with the other people in the space. So I love the idea of us having some kind of repository for content that we've created. I also love the idea of us just setting aside the time to do that exercise of creating content. I think that 30 minutes of writing a day is an exercise that will pay enormous dividends. I believe this really strongly. If you set aside 30 minutes a day to write about anything at all, it pays off because you've got this body of work. Now you've also put in some reps to get very clear on your point of view and how you like to articulate it, because the way you articulate it might be different than how this health coach articulates it. And your client might resonate with your point of view better. You have to be flexing and, training that muscle. So I like a website. I do like a website. I like a blog, but I really like a website because that's where you collect email addresses. And again, just like you own your website, you do also own your email list. And I really would encourage, we don't know what's going to happen with social media. Who knows? It's crazy. It's ever changing. And who knows, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it could all be gone. Or probably more likely, consumers will be so jaded from being sold at every time they open their social media app that they're going to be like, forget it. I don't trust any of these charlatans on Instagram. Well, I'm going to go into my inbox and see what people are doing. We don't know. So I just feel like collecting email addresses is a good idea, because when we're talking about nurturing, right? So we have these leads, we nurture them into a sale. That's the very abbreviated sales funnel. The lead is somebody who's interested in you. The nurture is you're keeping them in your fold, all that stuff I just finished saying about like reminding them what you do, how you work with people, what your point of view is. So this would be sending out emails, but it also could be posting to your blog, posting to your social feed. That's nurturing too, but you have to do that part. It doesn't go sales, lead, sale. There's that part in the middle, the nurture part we have to do. And that's where you'll do that through your social feeds, but website is a really good place, and an email list is a really good place to do that as well. Okay. So, Susan, to circle back to this question, you can be successful when you are stumped by technology. Because to me, Susan is not stumped by technology. There's just certain parts of it that are at the level she doesn't want to get to yet. So Susan's kind of like, I'm comfortable with this stuff, but I don't want to do all that other stuff. She can build it. She's got the organic marketing chops that's ready to go. That's good. You can do that all day, and it will work. The other stuff, ads, elaborate funnels, list building, some of those things I do like us to have, but they're certainly not essential. A sales funnel just involves leads being nurtured into sales. And you can do that organically through your social feed, or you can use paid ads, or you can have a whole big elaborate sales funnel, but it's certainly not necessary. Okay, my friends, I think I'm going to stop for today. That was a good cross-section of awesome questions. We covered some coaching topics. We covered some business topics. We covered some sort of your growth mindset and how to envision success in your business eventually. I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful that you joined me today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on our next Q&A. Make sure to submit some questions. Ask for what you need, because we need you. We need you out there helping people. Okay. So thank you once again. We'll see you next time.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.